Imagine you're outnumbered 4-1. Your enemy has cannons, thousands of men, and the arrogance of empire on their side. You have logs, shovels, and courage. Now imagine, you win. That's exactly what happened in July 1758, at a lonely French fort in the North American wilderness, Fort Carillon, perched beside the waters of Lake Champlain. What unfolded here wasn't just a battle. It was one of the most shocking upset victories in military history. This clash echoed the broader fury of empires clashing worldwide, where colonial ambitions ignited global flames. Today, we're diving into how 3,600 French troops, regulars, militia, and native allies, crushed a British army of over 15,000 men. Stay till the end, because this story ends with a lesson in leadership, strategy, and sheer human will. It's 1758. The French and Indian War, the North American front of the global 7 Years' War, is raging across the continent. This was no isolated skirmish. It was part of a worldwide conflagration that pitted old world powers against each other from Europe to India, reshaping maps and fortunes. Britain and France are locked in a deadly contest for North America. Whoever controls the waterways, the St. Lawrence, the Great Lakes, and Lake Champlain, controls the gateway to Canada. The southern end of Lake Champlain stands Fort Carillon, a small French stronghold built in 1755. Remote, surrounded by thick forests, swamps, and rocky hills, but strategically vital. Control Carillon, and you control the route from New York to Quebec. Both empires knew it, and both were willing to bleed for it. To the British, Fort Carillon was just a stop on the way to Montreal, a minor obstacle. To the French, it was a lifeline, a choke point that kept the British south and protected the colonies of New France. Enter Major General James Abercrombie, a by-the-book commander suddenly in charge of the largest army ever assembled in North America to that date, over 15,000 troops. His ranks brimmed with 6,000 British regulars, 10,000 colonial provincials, and a few ranger and native allies. The sheer size of the army was meant to intimidate. Columns of redcoats stretching for miles, supplies stacked in barges along Lake George, drums and bugles echoing across the forest. These men, from hardened veterans to eager recruits, carried the weight of imperial expectations, their scarlet uniforms a bold statement against the green wilderness. Abercrombie's mission was straightforward: march north from Fort Edward, crush the French garrison at Carillon, and open the road to Montreal. With that kind of force, he expected a quick, decisive victory. But numbers alone don't win battles. Not against men who know the land, who fight with cunning, and who refuse to back down. Louis-Joseph de Montcalm, the fiery French commander, understood his predicament. His 3,600 men, a mix of French regulars, Canadian militia, and native allies, were massively outnumbered. Many of the militia were seasoned woodsmen familiar with the terrain, while the native warriors brought unparalleled scouting and ambush skills. These diverse fighters, bound by shared peril, forged a resilient brotherhood amid the encroaching threat. Montcalm made a bold choice. He would meet the British outside the fort on a ridge just south of Carillon. This move allowed him to maximize his limited resources and force the British to attack on his terms. For days, French soldiers labored, felling trees and arranging them into a dense network of abatis, creating a natural barricade nearly impossible to charge through. Montcalm also positioned a few cannons and field pieces along the flanks, with additional guns from the fort's southwest bastion covering the La Chute River. These cannons sank 2 British supply barges during preliminary skirmishes, reminding Abercrombie that the French were not defenseless, no grand walls of stone. Just limited artillery, wooden fortifications, and resolute determination. On July 6, 1758, Abercrombie's army crossed Lake George, hundreds of boats packed with soldiers and supplies glinting in the summer sun. It was a breathtaking display of imperial power, a floating army that looked unstoppable from the shore. The water churned with oars, voices rose in disciplined chants, and the horizon filled with the promise of conquest. But fortune intervened. In a skirmish with French scouts, Lord George Howe, Abercrombie's most capable officer, was shot and killed. Howe's death struck a blow to morale and shattered the chain of command. Without Howe's guidance, Abercrombie became indecisive. Reconnaissance reports underestimated the French defenses, leading him to believe the barricades were incomplete and vulnerable. In reality, Montcalm had prepared every inch of his position, using the terrain, abattis, and artillery to their maximum advantage. On July 8, Abercrombie ordered a full frontal assault, a classic clash of discipline and desperation. Thousands of British soldiers advanced through the dense forest, muskets ready, but stumbling over roots and tangled undergrowth. The air hung heavy with the scent of pine and sweat, hearts pounding to the rhythm of distant drums. The French opened fire. Muskets cracked, cannons roared, and the abattis shredded formations. British columns broke apart under relentless volleys. Lead balls whistled through the leaves, splintering wood and flesh in equal measure. Abercrombie's men charged 11 separate times over 7 grueling hours, each assault repelled with brutal efficiency. Highlanders of the Black Watch fell by the dozens, provincial troops scattered, and officers desperately tried to rally their men. But by the end of the day, British losses numbered nearly 2,000 killed or wounded. French casualties were far lighter, under 400, though each loss was felt deeply in their small force. Even the river itself became a battlefield. British supply boats were targeted by French cannon, some sunk, others forced to retreat. Every attempt to bring artillery closer was thwarted by skillful French positioning. As night fell, Abercrombie's army retreated in disarray. Exhausted, bloodied, and leaderless, he abandoned supplies, wounded men, and the illusion of invincibility. Boats overloaded with survivors bobbed chaotically back across the lake, leaving trails of moans and discarded gear in the fading light. Montcalm, standing atop the ridge, watched his small army prevail against overwhelming odds. Contemporary reports say he gave thanks to God, acknowledging what he described as a miraculous triumph. He later toasted his troops, praising their courage and fortitude. The unthinkable had happened. A defensive line made of wood and dirt had stood firm against one of the mightiest British armies in North America. News of the victory spread quickly through New France. French newspapers hailed it as the Miracle at Carillon, a name that would live on in history, long after the fort was renamed Ticonderoga by the British in 1759. Celebrations erupted in taverns and villages, with songs composed in Montcalm's honor, fueling hope amid the war's grim toll. Montcalm was celebrated as a hero, while Abercrombie faced criticism for his rigid planning and failure to adapt. The defeat became a cautionary tale. Overwhelming numbers do not guarantee victory. But the victory was temporary. In 1759, the British returned with heavy artillery and a reorganized command. Starved for supplies and reinforcements, Montcalm's men abandoned Carillon, and the British renamed it Fort Ticonderoga. Still, Carillon's story endured as a lesson in strategy, leadership, and resilience, inspiring generations of soldiers and historians alike. So, what made Carillon so remarkable? Terrain as a weapon. Montcalm used the ridge, dense forests, and abattis to nullify British numbers. These natural features, amplified by human ingenuity, turned potential weaknesses into impenetrable strengths. Clever defensive placement. Limited artillery was positioned to maximize impact, sinking supply barges and covering flanks. Precision in placement proved that quality trumps quantity in defensive warfare. Morale and unity. The French defenders fought not for glory, but survival and homeland, a cohesion that allowed 3,600 men to repel a force 4 times their size. British misjudgment. Abercrombie underestimated the French, ignored reconnaissance, and insisted on frontal assaults, which amplified casualties. Carillon reminds us that preparation, terrain, and leadership often outweigh sheer force in warfare. Today, visitors can walk the grassy ramparts of Fort Ticonderoga, overlooking the same hills where Montcalm's men stood their ground. The echo of muskets is gone, but the story lives on. In an age of drones and cyber warfare, Carillon's timeless tactics still teach us the enduring value of adaptability and heart. Carillon stands as a testament. History's most improbable victories often belong not to the largest armies, but to those with strategy, courage, and resolve. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Battle of Carillon, hit like to support more epic historical storytelling, subscribe for tales of courage, strategy, and near-impossible victories, and ring the bell so you never miss a story coming alive. And tell us in the comments, if you were Montcalm, would you have risked everything to fight, or retreated to save your men? Thanks for watching, and as always, keep your curiosity fortified.